Hello everyone, it is time for a new video, and today we're going to be talking about some of my recent reads. So I have not filmed like a wrap-up video in a million years because I don't really like them. I usually read a lot of books and then it's kind of overwhelming to talk about all of them at once, and then I'm just kind of like with some of the books, I think I don't really know what to say, or I've talked about them before or whatever. But I have been wanting to do regular recent reads to talk about books that I just want to talk about. I don't have to include every single book. It doesn't have to be restricted to the month or anything. I can just tell you about the books that I loved the most recently. And yeah, so let's just jump straight into it. So the first book that I have here is one that I haven't talked about in any vlogs, and I loved it so much, and I want to tell you about it. So that is Frizzy by Claribel A. Ortega, and the art is by Rose Busamra. So I have literally wanted this, I almost said audiobook. I have literally wanted to buy this graphic novel since it came out, which I'm pretty sure at this point was like 3 years ago, but I just never find graphic novels in store, and they can be really hard to just get a hold of. And I ordered this again like 3 weeks ago, I don't know. And I also read this on like a sunny day in the park, which is rare to come by here. And it was the best time. I inhaled it in one sitting. The sun, the art, like everything about this, plus the fact that I've been waiting for it for so long, it was perfect. And I need everyone to, know about it and read this. And it's just absolutely adorable. So this is the art style. And I have definitely figured out that I prefer the graphic novels that are, in full color. And I have read like, black and white graphic novels, obviously, and it's still great, but just the color just makes it come to life. So this is middle grade, and I have read Claribel A. Ortega's middle grade books before, and I loved them. And this one basically follows Marlene, who is just kind of, dealing with the feelings of growing up and just being a little bit lost and confused and angry and frustrated. The main theme of this book is basically her hair and feeling like she is never happy with, the way that it looks, and she feels like everyone is, judging it and wants her to straighten it all the time. And she keeps hearing people in the family tell her that, she should not be wearing her natural curls. And she obviously feels very frustrated about that and down about it. It's kind of her journey discovering ways to accept herself and who she is, and just finding like love and joy within herself and her culture and community. And it's just such a beautiful and uplifting story. Obviously it deals with like some painful things, but at the same time it is completely focused on like the love and embracing who you are. I just absolutely loved this. And this is obviously a story that is meant to uplift and support young or even older people of color with natural curly hair. And so I'm so happy that this exists, not just for the kids, again, but even just, the adults who need some of the healing from this. And so I highly recommend this, and I really hope that we're gonna get to see another graphic novel by the two of them. I don't know of any plans right now, but I hope it's gonna happen. So absolute must read, and so please check this book out if you have not yet. So the next thing that I read is Wish You Weren't Here by Erin Baldwin, and this one I'm pretty sure was released this year, and I was highly anticipating this as well, mainly for the cover. Not gonna lie, I think this cover is gorgeous. I mean, pink and purple are my favorite colors, so clearly there's a theme here. But this one is Sapphic Rivals to Lovers, and it's set at a camp. And so this one is YA, and it's super fun. It's so addicting, such a quick read. Definitely strong summer vibes, which obviously summer's coming to an end, but I still think you should check it out. The romance is super fun, and it is childhood rivals to lovers, but not really like hate to love. And it's kind of mostly from one of the main characters. And it was just so good, and I loved the romance, I loved the camp vibes, the friendships, the setting, everything about this. Super fun, and it is definitely another book you should check out. I have not heard enough people talk about this, so definitely pick it up. So the next book that I read, The Luis Ortega Survival Club by Sonora Reyes, and this one is another YA contemporary book, and I will read you the little description at the top because I feel like it sums it up very well. And that is a story in the vein of John Tucker Must Die, but tackling serious topics. It's a revenge story told with nuance, heart, and the possibility of healing. So this one does deal with really serious things, so big trigger warning for sexual assault. It is a big theme in this book, so like, you know, if that is something you want to avoid, do not read this book, but it is a very powerful and beautiful and impactful story. I listened to the audiobook and I literally did not stop it for a single second. And I do listen to audiobooks sped up, so I didn't listen for 8 hours, you know, but it is still something that I do not tend to do in one sitting, and I literally just could not even breathe while reading this. Because it were just so powerful, and I loved the characters in this. It's basically all about found family and community and finding your people and the people that can understand you. And it really does have so much healing in this, and there is a little bit of a sapphic romance. You know what, I'm gonna mention another book very quickly. Because I did read that like 2 months ago at this point, but it's still kind of a recent read, which is also by Sonora Reyes, so that's the one that I read first. And that is The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School. So this one, I would say, is a little bit less serious, does still deal with homophobia and also just like religion connected to queerness and, you know, how that can be painful and all of those things. But it is just such a wonderful book. And this one is described as, it's a novel about a queer Mexican-American girl navigating Catholic school while falling in love and learning to celebrate her true self. So once again, I feel like this one, it does have like a very different tone, different plot, but I felt like the way that it again dealt with the painful topics with so much hope and so much complexity was just so well done, and it just was beautiful. And, you know, like there were some things I'm not gonna spoil because it was really great to see it for myself, but things that I thought would be, you know, really painful near the end, and it actually worked out in such a better way than I imagined that literally made me cry. And it was just such a great book, and this one, I loved the romance in this. So I highly, highly recommend you read both of these books because they're incredible, and I also have not really heard a lot of people talk about them. So definitely read them. Again, you know, be careful with the trigger warnings, but I highly recommend them. Then I have Play Along by Liz Tomford. So this is the fourth book in the whatever the fuck this series is called. I adore this series. I actually still have not read the first book, not for any particular reason, just because I love to read things out of order. I started with the second one, fell in love, like, on such an incredibly high level, and then I just kind of, it made more sense to me to, like, read them in order and then go back to the first one, so I read this the second it released. I cannot even express how much I loved this, and I just love companion series, you know, romance companion series, where you see the characters throughout the story, which, again, you should probably read them in order, like, you know, the way that it's meant to happen. But obviously also, just, you know, if you didn't know, they're standalone companions, so like you can read them out of order, but I just love the romance series that do it so well that you're invested in every single side character, who then ends up having their own novel, and it just makes it so rewarding and just so great. And we see Isaiah and Kennedy in the previous books, not like a lot, but I definitely liked both of them, and I was so excited for their book. You know when you like fall in love with the book, again, that was me with The Right Move, the second book, where you're like, well, you know, I know and I love the rest of this series, but it can never reach that same level, and that's fine. And then it somehow does, you know, like, oh my god, you know, if you like the trope of like the hero that is absolutely gone for the heroine and like, you know, would move mountains for her, you need to read this. I loved him so much, and I loved her so much, and her story and her emotional journey, and I didn't even say what it's actually about, which now I'm like, did I actually say that? about literally any of these books. Clearly I'm out of practice, okay? I'm sorry, but you know, it is what it is. But this is a sports romance. Kennedy, we have Kennedy and Isaiah, and Kennedy is like I forgot the name of it, but she is like an athletic not trainer, because she doesn't train them. She like makes sure that they're healthy, like, you know, kind of like a doctor, but she actually did not get like the lead doctor position because she was the only woman on the team, and the lead doctor was a sexist dick, you know. And so she's been on this team for a long time, and it has Marriage of Convenience, where they basically get drunk and get married in Vegas, and then they're like, shit, this is gonna ruin my career. You know, and Kennedy's like, well, you know, this is the end. And then they manage to play it off in a way that is convincing. And I forgot how much the Marriage of Convenience trope is like the best thing in the world. Honestly, I don't want to say it's my favorite trope, but like top 3. Like, it's so good. And the way that it was done in here might be the best way I've ever seen it done. So if you have not read this series, it is absolutely worth the hype. So addicting, so good, emotional, sweet, fun, romantic, steamy, everything I could ever imagine. You need to read it. So that's that. Okay, moving on. I read She Followed the Moon and Back by Amanda Lovelace. So this one is an arc. Oh, it's coming out in October, so I'm gonna say this very briefly because I don't know. I always feel bad talking about books that aren't out yet, but I'm like, the point of reading an arc is that I will talk about it before it's out, you know? And I basically have been I love poetry. I literally write poetry. Like, I've read so much poetry, but not in the recent like year or so, because I've been really stuck in it. I haven't been able to find ones that I love, and so I've kind of given up. But then I was like, you know what? I have found some good stuff on NetGalley before, so I'm gonna check that out, and I saw this, requested it. I got approved in like half an hour. That never happened to me ever before. And it was in the evening as well, and I was like, I guess they were on a different time zone, but still, you know? So this is Amanda Lovelace's like 10th book. Actually, yeah, 10th book. And I have not read them all, but like I've definitely read most. Actually, I might have read them all now that I am saying that. Cause like, again, I'm desperate for poetry collections, and they're not necessarily my favorite author, but I do always read it very easily because it is very accessible, very simple poetry. And I don't necessarily like that, and I know a lot of people don't like that, but I know a lot of people do like that. I do think it's good for people starting out, people who maybe don't read so much and want something easier. And I do think some of it is actually meaningful and impactful, and there were definitely some lines in this that I really enjoyed, and it's definitely one of the better ones that I've read. So if you have not read any of the others, I definitely would recommend it, but I think the second that you read a few, like, they are all very similar. And so I don't think that's like a bad thing. It's not a good thing either. Like, it just kind of like depends on what you like, you know, if you like to read the same stuff. But, you know, then it's good if you don't want to read the same stuff. It's not, you know, but I did think that this was a solid one. There were some gorgeous illustrations in this. Not like throughout the whole thing, but some of it that I really liked. So yeah, I don't really have any more to say to that because, again, like, clearly I have not been filming enough recently because I'm like, how do I do this? It's almost like I haven't been doing this for like 8 years, you know? But yeah, so I'll just mention 3 more books because I don't want this video to be too long and I don't want to talk about everything. But a few days ago, I read The Chemistry of Familiar Objects by Alexandra Vasti, and I've been in a big ebook slump recently, and I find it hilarious how I used to just be able to read ebooks and listen to audiobooks, and I wanted to read more physically, and recently I have fallen in love with physical reading, and then it just kind of, you know, the audiobook and ebook reading just stopped working a little bit, and I just have so many ebooks, and I have Kindle Unlimited, and I'm like, I just want to read all of that, you know, and so I finally read this. And I love Alexandra Vasti. This was literally the only book that I haven't read from her, and it was so good. And basically, she writes super, super fun historical romances and a lot of novellas, so this is a novella as well, but it's like 170 pages. And so it's quite a long one for a novella, but oh my god, I loved every page. I, again, could not focus on anything ebook-wise for ages, and then I finally read this, and I read it in like 2 days. And so we have Em and Robert basically living in the same building, and Emmeline basically buys this building, and she's like, well, you need to get out in the next like 14 days. Because she does like all these scientific experiments and, you know, like makes the ceiling explode, all that fun stuff. So they've been neighbors for a while, annoyed with each other, but now she's like, you know what, you should get out, you know? And then they go on this little quest together. They get stuck in a closet. They get, you know, washed out in a river. All that fun stuff, like forced proximity and, you know, just delightful shenanigans that, let's just say, end up with her not wanting him to move out. And it's just the most fun thing ever. I heard someone compare Alexandra Vassi's books to Tessa Dare, and I don't really want to do that because, like, you know, I don't want to compare authors in general because I don't know. Especially when it's like one super famous one and one just newer author. But I do want to point it out because it made me read her books in the first place, and I have been thriving ever since. And so I do think that there are some similarities with the humor and just how fun it feels and addicting, and there's adventure and swooning and fun, and it's everything. So if you have not read Alexandra Vassi's books yet, you need to check them out. Again, there are a lot of novellas. She actually only has one full-length novel out, but 4 novellas. So I am a novella stan, and I do think that is the one key to me reading ebooks again. So we're on the right track. So definitely recommend this if that wasn't clear. I also read Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. So this is, I don't think, oh yeah, like it's not really a companion sequel. The characters just briefly appear, but this was Julie Soto's first novel. And this book is very different from Forget Me Not. And in ways that definitely worked for me a lot more, because Forget Me Not is a super hardcore slow burn novel that I already knew was not for me. I didn't know how slow burn it would be, but the kind where they just literally don't get together until the end. And this one is definitely a lot more just like, not like super immediate or anything, it's not insta love or whatever, but you know, they get together, or like start getting together around the halfway point, maybe a little bit earlier than that, which I love to see. And we basically have 2 musicians. She plays violin, he plays the cello, but she kind of starts playing cello, whatever. And so she gets this job that's like very high up in this, I don't know the terms, so that kind of forces her into his environment a little bit more. They have been like working at this place for a while, like in each other's proximity, but never really talked or anything. And he's like very impressed with her music, but she thinks he doesn't like her. And so they kind of start working together on different occasions. They start getting closer. They kind of develop this like sort of friends with benefit situation without fully being friends yet. And it goes on from there. It was very fun. I liked the music vibes and definitely worked for me a lot more than Forget Me Not. And I love this cover. So enjoyed this. I do have one complaint that I always have that I don't love to like complain about because, you know, but I don't, you know, it's still something that I think about, which is this does not have the male point of view. And honestly, this book does not need it as much as Forget Me Not, because I feel like Forget Me Not had so many like it just did not give us enough space to see in his head, and you know, it just was missing a lot from there, because like especially since they didn't get together for so long and we literally did not know what he was thinking. So that was not the case in this book, but I still always want the other point of view, you know? I just want to see both the main characters. And I know it makes sense in a lot of places. Authors also don't want to write it, and I think that's valid, but there were like tiny little glimpses into the hero's point of view, and it makes me want to crave, you know, it makes me crave more. And I just want to know what he's thinking. I want to know that, you know, how he's in love with her and like watch him fall in love, like all those things. I want to see the pining. I want to see the yearning, you know? So anyway, but yeah, it was very fun. And I'm glad that I read it. And so yeah, that's that. But we have one more book to mention, which is this beautiful, beautiful book right here, which is Business Casual by B.K. Borison. And this was the perfect conclusion to this series. It is the last book in the Love Light Farm series. I've read them all. I have read them in order. And this series means everything to me. They're my ultimate comfort reads, like in the best way. They're so sweet and meaningful and wonderful, and I love these characters. I love this small town, and this was so good. So we have Charlie and Nova, and I did have the thought that it gave me some vibes from the dynamic and the romance to play along, which mainly is the fact that both of the guys in this are super, super gone for the heroine, and the heroine is a little bit more like closed off, hesitant to fall in love and all of that stuff, and I just fucking love that. So very different vibes, like, you know, atmosphere, like all that is like super different, but the presence of the side characters and the dynamic and the romance gave me those vibes in the best way, because again, I adored Play Along. And I adored this book, and it's just so sweet and so beautiful. We basically have Charlie and Nova who grew up in this town, but Charlie has been living in, is it New York City? If it's not New York City, just in a city. And so he's been kind of out of this, away from this small town, but sort of just constantly visiting because, you know, he couldn't fully stay away. And he's back for a month because he sent off his sister on a month-long honeymoon, and so he needs to take care of the farm and everything, and the two of them set up this kind of like business casual friends with benefits situation. Charlie is very attracted to Nova, but she always thought that he was kind of joking, and he never thought that she liked him, and she kind of propositions him, and he's like, this is my biggest dream come true. Are you sure that, you know, this is happening right now? And yeah, and it goes on from there. I loved all the side characters from the previous books being in this. I loved the conclusion, the ending, and there is like the brother's best friend trope in here, and finally it was done in a way that was just absolutely perfect. I was like, oh my god, I've been wanting for the brother to react like this. Because it just, oh my god, yeah. So I loved this. It's so cozy. I highly recommend this as like a fall read because it is set in the fall, you know, and it's on this farm and everything, so it would be perfect for that. I will definitely bring it up when fall actually comes around, which I don't know if this video will be up this week or not, but either way, definitely check this book out, and definitely read the whole series if you haven't yet, because seriously, so comforting, so sweet, so fun. Everything I could ever imagine. So yeah, so that will conclude my recent reads video, and please let me know what recommendations you would like to see, because I want to make more videos like this, and I have not done that in a long time, so I'm kind of struggling to figure out what to do. But yeah, if you made it this far, leave a teacup emoji down below. There is a teacup, right? And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye!